right, it's that time again. Time for Franchise or Bust. I am Trevor, your host, and I'm very excited today to have Rusty Amarante. He is the president of BELFOR Franchise Group. Rusty, it's great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Trevor. How are you?
Fantastic, man. Love the opportunity to get to talk to you. Oftentimes we're speaking with folks that are associated with one brand and kind of the things that go on inside of building up a franchise brand. But we have the privilege today to learn from someone and talk to Rusty about what it's like to lead a group that has multiple brands inside of it, and
Well,
what some of the challenges are, and what some of the excellent ways that he's developed and thought of to really grow those brands and create a competitive advantage for BELFOR. So, Rusty, if you don't mind, let's kind of just start with maybe some basics here. Just tell us a little bit about
sure.
yourself and a little bit how you got involved in BELFOR, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Kind of an interesting start into my career. I took a part-time job with a guy when I was in college, obviously many years ago, who had a cleaning business. He did carpet cleaning and maid service and janitorial work, and back then, that was in 1977. The word restoration really didn't exist to the level that it does today, as we all know about it for property restoration. When you think of BELFOR, so he did these things where he'd clean up if somebody had a pipe break in their house or if they had a kitchen fire or whatever, and one thing kind of led to the next, and I knew even as a kid I wanted my own business, and he owned a franchise, so he and I bought a franchise together, and started up in business. I never went back to college, never finished. I regret that, wish I had, but so he and I started up this franchise, and that franchise got acquired by another company. There was an opportunity there for me to launch out onto my own, and I did. So I had my own property restoration company for about 22 years. And in 1999, I sold it to Sheldon Yellen at BELFOR. And kind of frankly, with the thought I'd hang around for 4 or 5 years through my contract and my agreement. And as it turns out, here I am, 24 years later, still with BELFOR and enjoying every minute of it. So it's been a great experience.
I always think it's really interesting to speak to the leaders of franchise businesses at the franchisor level, like yourself, who've had experience being a franchisee. I mean, you understand what that world's like. You know what that, the good things and maybe some of the difficulties that are associated, and it can really help you when it comes to leading a group, a franchisee. So maybe kind of enumerate on that a little bit. Like how do you feel like that experience that you had as a business owner and a franchisee has really contributed to your leadership style and what you've kind of brought to the table for BELFOR?
Yeah, so I really kind of had things stacked against me. Other than when you're that young, you kind of think you know everything, but you really don't know anything. But I was obviously very young, no real experience, no capital. I borrowed the little bit of money that I could to start the business, and got out there and got going. I to this day feel all the emotions of all the highs and lows of building my business when I was a young guy. I so remember, having absolutely no work at all and wondering, how I was going to make the truck payment. And I so remember having more work than I could do, that I was turning down customers, that I went to and knocked on their door repeatedly to try and get business from. But now, because I was so small and I already had commitments, I couldn't say yes to those folks. So, the ebbs and flows of the ups and downs of all those things, they build you as a person, they build you as a business person, certainly, and they build a lot of character into staying focused and to get through all of that. I've said to people, and then obviously, I grew, I was able to hire some people and things like that. But I've always said, as a young business person or as a new business person, you really haven't lived until you have a couple employees and you can't make payroll. And I remember, those things so clearly and so specifically. So it's something that, you know, we we are on our franchise business. I, we talk and feel that and know it, and we understand it. So it's something that we always try to have a full understanding of our franchisees, and we try very hard to explain to them that is some of the things that may happen to them in their first, second, and third year in business, and we want them to understand that before they buy one of these businesses, because service businesses they're obviously different than owning a retail store or a restaurant or something where it takes time to build up your client base. So there has to be some patience clearly once you get the businesses up and going and you understand the finances and you understand marketing and all those kinds of things, the businesses just get bigger and bigger and stronger. And that's when the reward comes. But those first couple of years, sometimes, unless you get very lucky or unless you've got enough capital, can certainly be trying, certainly be testing. So yeah, that's,
I think
we feel it. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I think, well, you were giving me flashbacks when you were like, hey, you start a bit, every business owner knows what it feels like to not make payroll and, those kind of things. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think there's such a great advantage there for potential franchisees who are looking to join, BELFOR and the family of brands, knowing that the leadership understands. They understand them. They understand what they're getting into. They can
Right.
really help guide them. So we may get back to a little bit of that in a minute when it comes to just some good things in relation to being a franchisee in the system. But let's just talk about BELFOR for a little bit. And the last little while here that you've been the
Wow.
president. I know you guys have seen some growth over
Yeah.
the last little while. Talk a little bit about some of the ways that you've been expanding and growing, via acquisition, and maybe a little bit about some of these new brands that you're excited about.
Sure. Yeah. It's been a very exciting time for our franchise division at BELFOR. We started with our first franchise, which was called Ducks in 2006, 2007. And they were a duck cleaning franchise. And they were kind of a nice fit for BELFOR because all of our BELFOR locations, which is not a franchise, did, duck cleaning in homes and buildings. So if anybody were to buy a duck cleaning franchise from us and they were near a BELFOR location, chances are, if they did a good job and all that they'd get a customer right out of the gate with BELFOR being able to refer work to them. So it was really, really neat that we were able to put that together. But for folks who remember, if you go back, we just kind of got the thing going and we were doing great with it. And then 2008 hit, and we had the whole economic collapse, and it was just a brutal time in our country. With the banking and all of that sort of thing, that the business just took a big nosedive, and no fault of ours, and certainly no fault of our franchisees. But we got through that, and we stayed committed to it, and we kept going. And then after we had Ducks, we added Hoods, which is our kitchen exhaust cleaning business. That is the largest in the country now. We clean more kitchen exhausts than any other company. And we just kept going. And we've done it a few different ways. We started franchises right out of the gate, with an idea, a concept, with no franchises. And then we've gone all the way up to ChemDry, which we acquired, that had 2,000 licensees around the world. So we've done it from the ground up because we felt like we had a good leader or we had strong expertise in that market. But then we certainly have acquired companies that were already built and already established. So we're up to our 14th brand now, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and we've got a lot of really terrific people who run those brands for us, and obviously a whole bunch of really terrific franchisees. So it's and Sheldon, who is my boss, I'm the president of BELFOR Franchise Group. He's the CEO of BELFOR, the mothership. He has, still a very strong appetite to continue to grow our franchise business and to either build from the ground up or acquire other franchises. So I have no doubt we'll have more coming on here in the future.
One of the things that I think is really attractive to a potential franchisee when they would be looking for, being an entrepreneur themselves and getting in and having their own business, being a part of a brand, I think would be potentially looking at being a part of a bit of a larger group like you all are. Because the infrastructure in place to be able to support and train them, I know, is a really big deal for any brand, but especially when you have a larger subset of brands underneath. You get a lot more ideas. You get things that you can utilize. Talk a little bit about how a prospective franchisee might be supported and kind of what that process looks like when they come on to one of the family brands.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's so important. Obviously, the technical ends of the business are vitally important. Certainly, in today's world with customers' expectations, we tell our franchisees you really should not be talking about quality of service. If you're not performing high quality of service these days, you're just not going to be around. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So if you're not committed to having, your people well trained from the technical aspects of it, from the customer relationship aspect of it, if you're not 100% committed to that, your shelf life as a business owner is probably going to be pretty short, right? So, we've got a 40,000 square foot facility in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Like for our Hoods brand, for example, we have replicated an entire commercial kitchen. We've replicated a rooftop. So the franchisees can go there and they will learn, not just through pictures or PowerPoint. They get in there, we get it all dirty, and they have to, they put on the all the gear. They use the pressure washers. They have to get up on the ladders. They have to do all the things that they would really do, to clean a retail kitchen exhaust system. We have a dedicated house for our duct cleaning brand, which, shows how, the ventilating system works in an HVAC system. And we have, heaters and air conditioners and all kinds of systems there that they have to take apart and actually use. We've got aside from our training facility outside, we've got a dedicated house that we flood for our 800 water damage brand. For our Blue Kangaroo Packouts brand, the trainees will go there. They'll photograph all of the contents of that house. They'll inventory it. They'll pack it. They'll pack the truck. They'll go through all of it. They'll drive it to our facility. They'll unpack. They'll go through the cleaning process and bring everything back. Our plumbers franchise uses that house, to install toilets and faucets and all those sorts of things. So, for every brand, we have spent a considerable amount of money, dedicated 100% to the training aspects of the technical ends of that business. And to that point, we just bought another building in the same business park that's about 60,000 square feet, where we'll be expanding our training areas. So obviously, training is so critically important for it. And then, once you get through the aspects of of the trade, the business ends are you know, you can be the best tradesperson in the world, but if you don't understand how to market, if you don't understand how to manage a business, again, you know, your shelf life's going to be pretty short. You know, I've told the story a bunch of times. I had a goal as a kid, you know, when I was 25 years old, that I wanted to do $1 million in business, and I did. I got to $1 million at 25 years old. And I remember sitting with my accountant, you know, at the end of the year, and I said, well, here, you know, here's my books. I did it. I got to $1 million. And he said, yeah. He said, you sure did. He said, the problem is you spent $1,000,001 doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you unless you really understand, you know, what things cost, your cost of goods sold, you know, your operations, all, you know, the insurance, your taxes, workers' comp, like you have to really fully understand how all those things work, to make sure that you're running a profitable business. So, you know, those are all the things that we try to deliver and bring to the franchisees when they come to training, and then that training doesn't stop, you know, with the coaches that are assigned to each and every brand. So yeah, it's a big thing.
I think that's such a and that's a really strong kind of, you know, persuasion point for a potential franchisee, you know, because
Yeah,
you know, franchisees for the most part, uh, you know, they're ready to kind of get out on their own, but they want to be on their own, but they also want to know that, hey, this is something that works, and I have other
yeah,
people that are doing the same thing, and feel supported and all that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And well, you know, and we don't sell franchises to everybody. I mean, some folks come and want a business, but they want it for the wrong reason, or you know, they're just genuinely not cut out for it, right? You know, if you and your family are of the makeup that you know you like to be very rigid, you know, you get up in the morning, you go to work at 8 o'clock, you know, you have lunch at noon, you're done at 5, and everybody has dinner together at 6:30. I'm not criticizing that, but if that's your lifestyle and that's what you're committed to, owning your own business is probably not going to be for you, right? Because it's just something you live, eat, and breathe 24/7. And you know, you wake up at 3 in the morning thinking about things that are business related, because it's yours, it's your business. So you know, obviously sometimes you get somebody who's, you know, very frustrated with their job, and I've had it, I'm gonna start my own business. Well, that's great, but you have to fully understand what comes with all of that, and the ramp up time, and the effort that goes with it. And again, and not everybody's cut out for it. I mean, that's just all there is to it. But you know, and we try to counsel and coach people, you know, through those decisions, whether they come on board with us or they don't, because we want them to not be surprised, you know, in their first or second year about, you know, how it can go, and that's business, right? Yeah, yeah,
and sometimes, a lot of times, and those are great points, because a lot of times franchisees, well, potential franchisees, I should say, sometimes look at it from the outside looking in, or they say, well, I know a person who owns a franchise, and they barely do anything. They're never there. It's something like that. And they think, well, this is a great opportunity for me to just buy something and, you know, passively sit back. And very, very rarely is that the case. It's truly you get out of it what you put into it, and it's hard work.
yeah. Now, Trevor, obviously you understand it, because you know that's exactly the case. And you know, they may be looking at somebody, you know, who's been in business for 15 or 20 years, and you know, now they've set themselves up into a position where they are more comfortable, and they can afford to take more liberties with their business. But you know, to your point, you're not going to see too many people that in their first 5 years that are goofing off a whole bunch. I mean, they you know, they're touching and doing everything that needs to be done day in and day out to make those businesses work. And yeah, and if you don't have that kind of commitment, if you don't have that work ethic, you know, again, it's having your own franchise is probably
Yeah.
not for
Not
you. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Talk a little bit, if you don't mind. So we've established in some great through lines here. So uh, your experience and great understanding of really what it takes to own and operate a business, own and operate a franchise, it gets pushed down to the network, and also the high level of training that you offer to the franchisees, all in an effort to accomplish really the same goal, and that is you want them to be successful. I mean, the more successful they are, that's for everybody. So setting up those systems and making
that's
sure
right.
that's the case, and then that all that work translates to the customer. So talk about maybe some
That's
of
right.
the some of the competitive advantages of of the brands that you guys have, and like, let's say, for example, maybe not, we'll start here and then maybe we can touch on the customer side. But if I'm a prospective franchisee, why would I be looking at BELFOR for home if I wanted to be in home service as opposed to some of the other groups that are out there? And then how does the customer feel that kind of competitive advantage as well?
So, like, Belfor is a $3 billion worldwide company. So we've got and again, the mothership is not a franchise, but we've got a very large footprint, and we're very recognized in the service industry. So, we have a lot of contacts, with many of the Fortune 1000 companies. We've got a great relationship with the apartment associations, HOA associations, retail, hospitality, education. Our hands, our fingers touch a lot of those different areas. So we are able to introduce our different franchisees to some of those different areas or some of those other, potential customers through the BELFOR network. And obviously, if BELFOR should get any of that type of work, where again, they need carpets cleaned, they need drywall patched, they need dumpsters, whatever, they can call one of our companies and provide that service. So, from that aspect, it's great. The other part of it is that most good bit of our businesses our franchises can refer work to one another. Right? So, if our plumbing franchise goes out and somebody has a leak, well, maybe the drywall needs to be patched, so they can refer our patch boys folks to it. They had a leak, and maybe our 800 water damage people could go out and clean up the water damage. After the water damage has been cleaned up, the folks need their carpet cleaned. There's our chem dry business. So, I can go on and on talking about how the different brands can help and work with one another, but we so encourage our franchisees to get together on a regular basis and talk to one another, communicate with one another, and help each other, from a sales and marketing opportunity. Because, the more I can, if you and I are sister companies, if you're out there talking up my brand for me, and I'm out talking up, your brand for you, you kind of now have two salespeople, and I have two salespeople, helping each other, instead of just staying in a silo trying to make it happen on our own. So, that's part of our thinking. It's part of how we look at it, and we encourage the brands to work together. So, and it's worked. Yeah, it's been
Yeah, I
good.
think that's a great example and great thought of just how you're not only for again, for prospective franchisees, that's really cool because
Right.
they get the benefit of some cross sell and some help in
Right.
their area. But I think it's also great, in my opinion, for the consumer because as a homeowner, I know for me, when something comes up and I have someone come over that I trust that does a great job, well, I tend to lean on them for other things too because there's a
That's right.
lot that A, I just don't have time for, and B, I don't understand. So I would ask a question, hey, what about, do you know anything about this and that, since you did such a
That's
good
right.
job here? And if they can say yes, I sure do, and we have a partner that can come do that, it's a really big advantage.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And again, then that kind of triggers back to, my comment about customer service, right? The last thing we want to do is refer someone who does a bad job, because now that's a reflection on you, right? So, we just constantly are pounding on the franchisees, about customer service and quality work. As I said, we kind of say we shouldn't have to talk about it, but you just can never, take your foot off the gas on customer service, because, as I was bragging about how great that can be, all working together, if a bad job occurs, it can be damaging to all of those brands, right? So the knife can cut both ways, but again, hey, ultimately, what we want, for our entire BELFOR system is happy customers, right? We want them, giving us the 5-star ratings. We want them referring, our companies to friends and family, and talking about how good, whatever service we provided was performed in their home or their business. So, like we said, without good, solid franchisees, we cannot be successful as a franchisor. Without good, solid, happy customers, the franchisees cannot be successful, and then consequently, we would not either. So, it's really a customer-driven business, and look, and hey, it's gotten harder. I mean, like I said, I started in '77. That's a long, long time ago. There was no social media. There was no Google. There was no anything. So, your bad reputation, really, if you mess something up, didn't really go beyond, friends or neighbors or family or whatever. Well, now when you mess something up, the whole world can know about it, right? So the consequences can be dramatically different from what it was then, not always is that complaint necessarily 100% accurate, but whatever, it needs to be dealt with, right? So you try very hard not to open the door for customers not to be pleased with the service that you provided, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it is, right?
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah,
Well, you guys are, yeah. I mean, in the service-based business that you got, the keys that you brought up, I think today, really resonate, and that is on the making sure the franchisees are set up set up for success.
yeah,
They have great tools, they have great training, they have great support at the franchisor level to help them be successful. And they have a big group of other people doing the same thing they are across a variety of different brands to support them. So it's really, we've really been able to learn a lot from you, Rusty, and we certainly appreciate your time.
well,
Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we sign off?
no, really. I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and share the BELFOR Franchise Group story. And as I said, we're very happy and very excited about it, and we're looking forward to continuing to grow and build. So I thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk.
That was our pleasure. We're very much appreciative of you. And if anyone, it's pretty simple. Look up BELFOR Franchise Group, and you can see all the brands if you're interested in looking more into it. So, Rusty, again, thank you so much. Everybody that's listening, appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon on the next Franchise or Bust.